Peace be upon you, dear viewers of Heartbeats for Allah. A Jewish girl was struck by the wrath of Almighty Allah. Watch this scene on the screen with your own eyes. A Jewish girl crossed every boundary of shamelessness. When a Muslim who was traveling heard the sound of the adhan in his ears, he immediately began to perform his prayer. Upon seeing him praying on the roadside, a Jewish girl did something that will surely anger you, but Almighty Allah made her an example for the entire world. The way this girl was exposed in front of everyone's eyes, let us find out about this. But before that, if you are visiting the channel for the first time, do subscribe and click the bell notification so that you can stay informed about every piece of news on time. In a digital age where stories spread rapidly, this shocking event quickly garnered attention, leaving many to reflect on the power of faith and the consequences of hatred. Friends, this news began going viral on the internet since yesterday. It is being said that this entire incident took place in Denmark, a region where there was intense hatred towards Muslims. People would protest and chant slogans, advocating genocide against them, fueled by deep-seated biases. In such an environment, the presence of anyone openly practicing Islam sparked animosity. When a Muslim passed through that area, a Jewish girl seized the moment to behave immodestly with him, revealing how hostility can emerge in the most unexpected forms. Numerous residents in this region inherited negative stereotypes through generations of misinformation, making them quick to judge Muslims and slow to show compassion. Let us inform you of the details. The Muslim man between 28 and 30 years old was extremely pious, devoted to prayer and God-fearing. He was fasting at the time and traveling in a vehicle. The trip was supposed to be only 2 hours, but the car broke down, forcing them to stop on the side of the road. Everyone inside got out. That Muslim man stood apart, holding prayer beads, continually reciting something. There were shrubs and scattered trees around, but no sign of civilization. People cursed the driver, blaming him for the malfunction. However, the young man quietly turned the beads of his rosary, praising Allah, until the adhan began to resonate. As soon as it echoed, everyone looked around curiously. Upon seeing the peaceful smile on his face, some frowned, wondering if he was indeed a Muslim. The young man simply replied, "Alhamdulillah, my religion is Islam," prompting murmurs from those around him. He calmly searched for a clean spot to pray, illustrating unwavering commitment to his faith. This composure, even amid hostile stares, revealed the depth of his devotion. The driver mentioned it would take 2 hours to fix the car. The Muslim man then walked to the shade of a lone tree, brushed the ground, and prepared to pray there. Observing him was the Jewish girl who despised Muslims. She had been jailed before for her actions against them, but influential supporters ensured her release. Seeing this devout Muslim praying stoked her rage anew. She could not bear that he would worship openly. Consumed by envy and hatred, she drew closer. Her companion, sharing her bias, watched expectantly, as though hoping for a spectacle. She marched up to him, shouting insults in a loud voice, aiming to disrupt his concentration. Yet he remained silent, eyes closed, immersed in prayer. Determined, she positioned herself in his line of sight and began to undress, assuming it would shame him and defile his prayer. Instead of intervening, onlookers merely recorded the incident on their phones. They laughed or stood idly by, convinced of their power over a solitary believer in a place ruled by hatred. But as soon as she started removing her clothing, something astonishing occurred. She was spewing vile remarks against Islam, stepping closer to the praying man, when a bird suddenly descended from the sky and struck her neck with its beak. She let out a piercing scream as blood sprayed from the wound. People gasped, startled by the unexpected violence. Before anyone could react, another bird swooped in, targeting her jugular vein. In moments, she lay on the ground, writhing in agony. The bird's swift attacks left everyone stunned. Friends, this was no ordinary bird. It was a rare species with an unusually thin, long beak and remarkable speed, making it impossible to predict its movements. Meanwhile, the Muslim youth continued his prayer, his voice resonating with verses from the Quran. It seemed to announce that Almighty Allah protects his faith, punishing those who vilify it. The uproar around him did not distract him from worship, underscoring his profound steadfastness. These shocking scenes were broadcast live, and those recording soon found themselves under attack by the same birds. Cries and screams echoed as more birds appeared, pecking at anyone who had mocked the praying man. He completed his prayer and looked skyward, observing the flocks circling overhead. Some bystanders dropped their phones in terror, trying to escape. The air was thick with fear, for no one knew how to halt the winged onslaught. Further information reveals that 32 people were present, and these birds attacked them all, yet not one bird touched the praying man. The girl, now wounded and covered in blood, could barely move. The birds persisted in pecking at her, while no one dared intervene. Some onlookers who had ridiculed the Muslim man now trembled in horror, recognizing the consequences of their cruelty. In the midst of the chaos, he spoke calmly. "Seek forgiveness. Ask your Lord for pardon. Had you not mocked the religion of God, you would not be in this condition." His words resonated across the gruesome scene, a clear admonition against arrogance and hatred. Many witnesses fell to their knees, pleading for mercy, clutching their heads or covering their eyes. Phones lay abandoned, while the wounded cried out for help. The collective realization that a line had been crossed was inescapable. Their confidence in their dominance had been shattered by forces beyond human control. When the birds finally relented, those who could still stand gazed about in stunned disbelief. The Jewish girl was incapacitated, the once jeering crowd now silent. By then, local rumors had begun to spread, describing the bizarre event. Some claimed it was a divine sign, proof that those who insult the sacred face immediate retribution. Others, too shaken to speak, merely stared at the devastation, uncertain of how to reconcile what they had witnessed with their previous beliefs. Friends, heed this account as it serves a powerful reminder. Arrogance and hostility toward another's faith can incur dire consequences. While skepticism about miracles or divine intervention may persist, the aftermath here was undeniable. A lone man stood unscathed, steadfast in worship, protected from the chaos swirling around him. Those who sought to shame him became the subjects of a terrifying ordeal that defied explanation. The lesson is stark and profound. Mocking sacred rites can backfire in ways one might never anticipate. For many, this horrifying moment redefined their perspective, compelling them to confront their bias and acknowledge that hatred often breeds destruction. May this story guide us to show respect and refrain from scorning what others hold sacred. The wrath unleashed upon that girl and the harm suffered by those who joined her mockery underscore a fundamental moral truth. Malice serves only to unmask the ugliness within, and divine justice can appear at unexpected times. The Muslim man's calm amid the havoc revealed the true strength of devotion. Instead of retaliating in anger, he entrusted his faith to a higher power, illustrating that patience and piety can withstand even the fiercest storm of hatred. In the days that followed, conversations in nearby towns revolved around the incident, with many struggling to process the unsettling demonstration of nature's fury. Some recounted how the flurry of wings and beaks felt like a warning from beyond, a moment where ordinary reality fractured to reveal something far more consequential. Though explanations varied, ranging from theories about territorial birds to claims of supernatural intervention, one point emerged consistently. Hatred and disrespect had triggered a startling reaction that no one present could forget. Elders reminded the younger generation that history abounds with stories of sudden, inexplicable consequences befalling those who ridicule sacred traditions. They emphasized the value of humility and self-reflection, urging people to guard their tongues and hearts against mocking beliefs they do not understand. The Muslim man's composure also became a topic of admiration, as he neither lashed out nor sought revenge. Instead, he remained steadfast, placing his trust in the power he worshipped. This attitude of reliance on divine justice inspired a few onlookers to question their inherited prejudices. Quietly, some individuals reached out to learn more about Islam, discovering that the faith they once despised holds principles of compassion and accountability. Local religious leaders, hearing the story, pointed out that such incidents should not be taken lightly, for they reflect the unpredictable outcomes of transgression. The idea that an entire group could feel emboldened to harass a single worshiper underscores how collective biases can spiral into active persecution. Yet the swift and unanticipated reprisal highlighted a timeless lesson. Those who sow malice often reap torment. Slowly, as gossip subsided, many began to move on with their lives. But the memory of that day lingered like a scar, etched into communal memory. Occasionally, a hush would descend when someone recalled the screams of the girl or the panic of those trying to shield themselves from the attacking birds. Even those hardened by hatred found themselves haunted by the realization that they too were vulnerable. In hushed tones, they admitted that no mortal power could protect them from a retribution that seemed guided by forces beyond their comprehension. Thus, while the region maintained its complicated stance on religious differences, a seed of caution had been planted in many hearts. People thought twice before ridiculing another's faith, aware that in an instant, the line between the mundane and the miraculous might again be blurred, revealing how delicate human arrogance truly is. Remember this?